Hello everybody, this is Latina. I was going to talk to you about my community presentation. Asthma was my topic of choice because I have a 7-year-old niece, Libby, who was diagnosed when she was only 2, and she has been with her classmates since she was in preschool, and now they're in 2nd grade and they're starting to get a little more curious about why Libby has a inhaler with her. We had to get a doctor's statement for her to keep that with her at all times because where she would have flare-ups often. They have seemed to slow down a little bit over the last year, I think mostly because she is more aware of what's going on and of the triggers, and she knows she's not supposed to be around certain things, or she knows she's not supposed to run and in the dust and this, that, and the other. But her classmates have also gotten a little older, so they're getting curious about why she has this and wants to see her use it and whatever. So she knows this is not a toy, and she doesn't do it, but then it's kind of making her feel a little uncomfortable because it's kind of like peer pressure in the 2nd grade to use your inhaler. So I thought this was the perfect opportunity to go to the school and teach her class about asthma. So I'd met with their principal, and we set up a day and time that they allotted me 30 minutes before lunch to go to the school gym to set up my presentation. Just over the last few years, they have combined all of our county's schools into one. So now there's 5 schools in this one school, which made it 110 students. Was not expecting that many, but anyway, it was fun, and I had to think of something that was going to be age appropriate for them since they're in the 2nd grade, and something that's educational to catch their eye and to keep them interested in what I was saying. I chose Charlie Brown since it was in the fall, and everybody loves It's a Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. So I made trifold poster boards with different scenes from the cartoon. One scene had Charlie Brown leaned against Snoopy's doghouse, and Snoopy was on top, of course, and Charlie Brown and Woodstock were roasting marshmallows. So I incorporated this into my topics, which were triggers, because I've told them Snoopy was a puppy dog, which was a pet, and that was one of the triggers, and then smoke from the fire of the marshmallow roast. And then I had others, like there was one that had Pigpen because of the dust that was all stirred up. So there was also another one that had Linus there by the big pumpkin, and it's like he was holding to his throat, like, and when I saw it, I was like, that would be the perfect picture to put for somebody that's maybe having an asthma attack or having trouble breathing. So I incorporated that in there. So first I asked the students if they were aware of what asthma was, or anybody that had asthma. And there were several that did have family members that said that had asthma, and there were maybe 15 or so that knew that Libby, their classmate, had asthma. And like I said, there were 110 students, so not all of them had been around her since preschool, like most of them. And there were also 5 teachers there, the school principal, and the physical education instructor was there. So that was a good opportunity for them to hear some of the information also, especially about the dust being stirred up, and with the physical education teacher there, to be aware that Libby didn't need to be around running and things if she's already coughing and things like that. So that was a good opportunity for him to hear that also. I incorporated some of the information that I had received during my article research, but I did find that the Healthy People 2020 of 2013 reported that there were 58.7% of the population of children were diagnosed with asthma. And the CDC of 2013 reported that there were $56 billion a year being spent for the treatment and hospitalization of the students with asthma. So my topic was mostly in my paper that I wrote was about educating, like the school nurses educating the students and the teachers about asthma, and this would keep some of those statistics down, the more knowledge that they had. I also found that there was a knowledge gap between the students, the teachers, the school nurse, because sometimes the school nurses didn't even realize that the students had asthma until they would come in and have signs and symptoms, and she would dig back through their records and find that out. So it was really important, and I also told the students it was really important for them to let their teachers know, or their lunch lady, or anybody know that they had asthma, or if they saw someone who was having trouble breathing, let any adult know these things. Because the more knowledge that they have, even though they're small and in the second grade, they're at the good age to learn and they can report things. And they were really good about participating in the questions that I had asked them, and also about the time when Linus looked like he was having trouble breathing. I asked if they knew what to do, and they're like, go get help. So that was good, and it also made me feel good to know that if they ever saw Libby or any of their classmates having trouble, then they would immediately go get help from an adult. I also incorporated other things, like I used 2 balloons to show them how the lungs should open up properly. I used a pink balloon that was fully blown up so they could see that the lungs needed to be open good and big. And I also used a pink squiggly balloon to show them that it's hard to get air through when it's tight like that, which is how children with asthma, or adults, either one, have trouble breathing. And that's what causes the funny sounds that they hear. So if they heard that from one of their classmates or something, then they would know something's wrong. I also had my niece Libby to show them, to actually get out her inhaler and shake it up and show them like if she was to take a puff. So that way they could actually see it, and that would tame their curiosity, or hopefully it will, because she knows it's not a toy. And I wish I had integrated that a little more during the presentation for them to know it's not a toy, but I think they did quite well with participating, and they also had several questions. They had really good questions to be second graders. I was proud of them, and then I got nervous because I thought, wonder if I don't know the right answer. And they were, I was just a little nervous during the presentation. Thought I was going to pass out, but you know, it was just nerve-wracking to be videoed, and just the unexpected. And I'm not very well talking in front of groups. I'm not doing a very good job right now, but I did have fun overall. I think the children learned a lot, and they seem to be interested in the subject, so I'm sure that would give them a topic to talk to, or a subject to talk to with Libby outside of the presentation, so they could still ask her more questions too. There wasn't but just like a couple of interruptions, I think, during the presentation. One was there was an overhead page from the secretary because somebody was in the parking space that they needed for the garbage truck, which you could hear in my presentation, and the door was left open. I was so nervous, I don't even know what all was around me. I was just trying to make sure that they did understand about asthma, and they understood the topic of all the information and the signs and symptoms. And I tried to incorporate a little bit of everything in there for them at their age level. I gave them a printout also that had an outline of the topic of what asthma was, the triggers, the signs and symptoms, the treatments, and things like that. And I also had a coloring page at the bottom that had Snoopy's doghouse, which he was on top and Charlie Brown was on the bottom. So while they were coloring that, it would kind of keep their curiosity, and they would have that with them so they could see some of those signs in case they had questions for Libby or their teacher or anybody, and they could take it home even and show their parents so they could be aware of things. I also asked them about allergies. I asked them, since it was the peanuts was my theme there, the peanuts game, then I asked if anybody had any peanut allergies, and I also wanted to make sure I didn't give any of them. I gave them all treat bags, but I wanted to make sure there was none that had peanuts in it because I know that's a big allergy around here. So I told them they needed to let their teacher and everybody know about that also, and any other things. So there's several different topics and several different diagnoses that are in one school alone, that several things could be taught at different times. But anyway, I just wanted to let them know, to let people know if they have anything emergency wrong with them, so they could tell their teacher, and the school nurse could be aware also. So there were a couple of things that wasn't in my presentation, or that I put in my paper, just because it didn't really go at the time with what I was concentrating on, was to communicate with the teachers and the school nurse and everybody about asthma. So a couple of things that I found was, one study was thinking that maybe obesity was one of the causes of asthma, and another was the behavioral issues noted between children that were diagnosed with asthma. Now, I should have known this or thought of it, but since my Libby girl, she's so hyper and outgoing, and she doesn't hide her feelings, I just didn't realize that that was a problem, and I'm sure it is, because they are not allowed to do certain things in their class. Sometimes they can't participate in certain activities and things because it would cause them to have an asthma flare-up. So those were a couple of things that were in that presentation, and overall I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed class with you all. I told the children that they had at least 10 or 12 more years together before they graduate, and they'll know a lot of things about each other. And I feel that even though I've not seen you all, we've had conversations through Blackboard and our discussion boards and everything, and it's been nice chatting with you all. And we've had a long, hard road, but we're making it. I congratulate everybody on their graduation, and I wish you well, and a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Enjoy your new degree as a BSN. Thank you all.